Hey guys, I wanted to make a video talking about my recent hospitalization experience with battling pneumonia, the flu, and E. coli all at once. It was quite the experience to say the least. I am going to try to give as much detail and provide as much information as possible, along with what happened and kind of walk you guys through my mental thought process and kind of talk about like my resiliency and my faith about this entire process. Because when you're really going through a storm, it's kind of hard to kind of keep your mind sharp and try to keep your faith intact when you're really going through it. And I wanted to make this video. I wasn't originally planning on making this video, but I felt I felt up to make this video and record it for you guys. I didn't want to make the video just because I haven't cut my hair in like 2 months. So my hair is like super long. My facial hair is like completely long. I'm not like, yeah, I wanted to get a haircut before I record another YouTube video. But I thought to upload a YouTube video at least a day late, whereas then not upload at all. So I thought about making this video for you guys. Anyhow, so this entire experience is I went to Texas visiting my sister, which was my sister had a baby, and I got to go to Texas and see my niece for the very first time, which was very exciting and really cool to have the opportunity to travel and experience new scenery, get to see my niece and see my sister and see where she's living and everything. So it seemed I got to go to Texas in October, which was very exciting, and it was a very beautiful trip. We drove over there from where I live, and it was a beautiful trip. A long trip, but a beautiful trip. It was very exciting. And the reason why I mentioned this is because it all started when I got back from my trip. Being there from where I'm currently at, which is California, and experiencing California weather to Texas air quality from where I was at, you can completely tell the difference in air quality. And what I mean by that is it just felt fresh. I felt like I was able to breathe better, and being there in Texas. So traveling back from, everything started happening towards the end of our trip. We were there for 3 weeks, which again was a blessing. And us being there, we were there for 3 weeks, and it was a great trip. Excuse me, I'm still feeling under the weather, and I will talk about it within this video. It was a great trip. Anyhow, right towards the end of our trip, like the last 3 days or so, I started to feel slightly under the weather. And by under the weather, I'm talking about a little bit of a cough, not too much congestion, but a little bit of a cough. And it all began then. And as we are traveling on our way back, it slowly started to progress a little more and more. And literally the day of when we arrived back home from our trip in October, which is now the end of October, it was, we roughly didn't get back till, oh no, we didn't get back until November 3rd. I think it was like November 3rd. Anyhow, we got back very, like, towards the first week of November. And anyhow, so literally as soon as we pulled up on our driveway and we got home, me feeling under the weather started to progress. It got to the point where I started to lose my own voice. Now, the reason why I am mentioning all of this is because this is where everything started to begin, with me feeling under the weather. And stick along for the video, and you will understand how it all connects. I get home, and now I'm doing my treatments. I'm doing everything. I'm taking antibiotics, my steroids, my normal regimen to get better when I start to feel under the weather. Me feeling under the weather is just nothing new to me when it comes to my respiratory. Unfortunately, it comes with the SMA territory, meaning my disability. I'm not speaking for everybody. I'm just speaking off of my own personal life experiences while having SMA. And we get home doing everything I can, and I was doing everything. I was sick for a week, and then I would get better, and then I would uh, be better for a week, and then I was sick for a week, be better for a week, sick for a week, be better for a week. And this was going on back and forth for quite a while, till it got to the point where eventually it got to the point where I was like, Mom, I think I need to go to the hospital. And she knows when I say those words, she knows I'm feeling a particular way. Um, she knows I'm feeling a particular way. When she knows I need to go to, when she hears the words I need to go to the hospital, she knows I need to go to the hospital. I woke up this particular day, which is November 24th, excuse me, which was November 24th, and I cannot remember the exact time, but I woke up and sometime in the morning, and I was just congestion, coughing, wheezing, you name it. My respiratory it progressed to a point where it was so bad where my congestion and my phlegm would get so thick, where then it started to clog my airway in my throat when I would wheeze, and I couldn't break up the phlegm to bring it up. And when I started to experience the phlegm getting so thick and progressing to where it was clogging my airway, that's when it became a very big concern, and it started to scare me a little bit because it's blocking my airway, and being under the weather and having SMA, you're not the strongest. And so by me feeling that way and me reflecting off of the previous days and more so the previous month, because I was sick, not sick, sick, not sick, and it was back and forth, I was like, I need to go in. I'd rather be safe than sorry. And the reason why I say this, rather be safe than sorry, is because there has been many times with me, it's just me personally who I am, I like to kind of push things to the limit a little bit, especially when it comes to myself. I like to push myself as much as possible to the last very ounce that I can possibly give. And I would do these things so much in the past where eventually I would collapse. And by collapsing, puts me in a much more rougher spot. And reflecting off of those past experiences, and I had a couple of those experiences, and I told myself, don't let it get to that extent again. So by me feeling the way I was feeling, especially by my phlegm getting so thick where it was clogging my airway, I was like, go in, don't wait, go in. And I ended up making the decision to go in. Now, now my mom was sick, and everybody in my household was sick. And because we are all sick, it's harder for me to recover as well. And it was hard for any of us to get to recover from how we were all feeling. We all had a cough, and we were all coughing up phlegm, and we all felt drowsy, fatigue, and just drained. We felt tired. Very little to no appetite. Like all of us in the household are feeling like that. And so it's when everybody around me is sick and I'm sick, it's a little bit harder for me to recover because I'm not the only one fighting this virus. And it's kind of like I'm fighting this virus, and then the virus is also around me, if that makes sense. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, right? It's life. You can't prevent it, right? And anyhow, so everybody in my household was sick. So my mom was sick to the point where she couldn't come into the hospital like she normally does with me. Fortunately for me, I have the support system that I have, which is why I talk a lot about gratitude, because I've seen the contrary of not having certain blessings within my life. I've seen it with other people. And that's why I preach gratitude a lot. Be thankful for your blessings. Don't take life for granted. I always preach gratitude a lot. Back to what I was saying is my mom was so sick where she couldn't come to the hospital with me like she normally does. So fortunately, back to what I was saying is I have the support system that I have. I reached out to an aunt of mine, told her the circumstances, what was going on, and she was like, absolutely, like, I'll be there. So my mom and my aunts went to the hospital with me. Despite how my mom was feeling, my mom still went to the hospital. And to cut everything short, I was coughing, congested. Ambulance picked me up. 911 was called. Ambulance picked me up, transported me to the hospital. I had a treatment while I was there at the hospital. I was put on oxygen. I was studying low 90s, sometimes high 80s. Sometimes, excuse me. Sometimes my oxygen levels was stat mid 80s, and my normalcy is like 98 to 100 to give you an example of when I say low 90s and mid 80s. Once you feel, for me, having so many of these respiratory experiences where I'm in the hospital, going in and out of the hospital, I can tell where my oxygen stat is at by just my breathing, and like right now, I'm probably statting mid 90s, realistically probably 94, and that's just a guess based off of my own past experiences. And anyhow, I was in a pretty bad shape, so me feeling the way I was feeling, I go to the hospital. Despite how my mom was feeling, she goes to the hospital with me. My aunt shows up as well. Because of my past experiences, I already know I'm gonna be admitted. So we always take our travel bag, which has our essentials to get us through the next few days or the next week, such as like phone chargers, personal hygiene stuff like toothbrush and personal things that we use here at home, clothes and things like that. And anyhow, we go, cut everything short. They had a hard time getting a vein, which is not out of the ordinary. I am a very hard stick when it comes to finding veins. It took them several tries to finally get an IV. I believe it took 6 to 7 tries to get an IV, and that was quite the experience as well. And then they finally got a vein. They finally got an IV in, so they were able to give me IV drip, because now by this time I'm dehydrated. I'm trying to stay hydrated by drinking water in the hospital, but there's only so much I can intake, and because the doctor is unsure what's going on, they limit what you can drink and things like that. So because of my situation, they finally were able to get an IV in. To cut everything short, they ended up admitting me for after running tests, lab work, blood work, and all that stuff. They ended up admitting me for having pneumonia, the flu, and E. coli wasn't in the picture yet. It was just pneumonia and the flu. Excuse me. Hang on. Excuse me. I gotta cough this up really quick. I'm sorry. I had to cough that up. And so they ended up admitting me for having a pneumonia and the flu. That's what I was being treated for, and that's what I was diagnosed with. I got admitted. My aunt sent my mom home because, again, my mom was under the weather. My aunt stayed with me, unfortunately. A really big blessing. And this was quite the experience because my mom has never really been sick when I got in the hospital. So this was I was in uncharted territory, to say the least. And anyhow, I was in the hospital for 4 days. I got discharged on Thanksgiving Day. And there's a lot more that went into that story, but I'd rather keep some things off of social media for certain reasons, because it just makes me too vulnerable. And don't get me wrong, I try to be as open and vulnerable as much as possible, but some things I'd rather just keep to myself. And anyhow, to cut everything short, I was discharged Thanksgiving Day, which was November 28th, which again was a blessing. I was doing better. I wasn't my 100%. And to be candid, I did push myself a little more than I'd like. It was just the circumstances where I'd rather be home for Thanksgiving Day. And did I really feel I should have came home when I did? No, I don't. I downplayed it a lot, and I told the doctor I was doing better, when in reality I wasn't. I should have been persistent. No, I think I need to stay for an extra day or a few days, just because of how I was feeling, past experiences, and sure enough, I did come home too early. I ended up right back in the hospital 2 days later. I had to call the ambulance again. Ambulance picked me up. Had to go through the entire process again by going through the ER, telling them what's going on. Had to go through that entire process, get another IV, a hard stick as it is. Round 2, getting poked several times, and my hands are still bruised. Well, I don't know if you can see it with the lighting. No, you can't. You can kind of see it. Not really. Anyhow, this hand is pretty bruised. It's getting better, which is a good thing. My left hand is bruised. My arms are bruised because I was being poked so much, And it's nothing bad. I'm not talking anything bad at the hospital. It's just I'm a hard stick, It happens. It happens with me. So there I am being poked several times, trying to find another IV, and I cut everything short. I'm admitted for pneumonia, the flu again, and this time I'm having very loose stool, which might be TMI, but I had very loose stool. That's when they started running tests, and sure enough, they then diagnosed me with E. coli. So now I'm battling. Now my body's under attack by having the flu. My respiratory is under attack by having pneumonia, and my stomach is under attack by having E. coli. I was being under attack from all different angles. Excuse me. I like to keep my videos as raw and honest as possible. And I was just really going through it, to say the least. And this is not to talk about, the spiritual battle I'm going through, what's going on here? Why is this going on? What are you trying to show me, kind of ordeal? And, I'm having my own spiritual talks with God. It's that's not even talking about, again, my spiritual warfare going on and trying to keep my mental health in check, during all this process. Because, again, a lot's going on, and so it was quite the experience. So there I am, back November 30th, back in the hospital. They admit me. This time I'm in the hospital for several days. My aunt stayed with me for a few days. Then my mom was well enough where she was doing well enough where she then started to stay with me in the hospital for the last couple of days. Or, you know what? Yeah. I can't. No, I don't believe she stayed with me the first night on November 30th. I think she was still feeling under the weather. Excuse me. I'm getting too deep into this, trying to get too much details in the video. But my mom was doing well enough where she was able to be with me in the hospital for at least 4 days. And so there I am, back in the hospital. I'm sorry, I got to pause this. Excuse me. I had to cough it up. So there I am, I'm back in the hospital. And my mom was able to be with me for the last couple of days while I was in there. Fortunate for that. And this time, I was back in there. My IV ended up going bad. This was quite the experience as well. IV ended up going bad. My veins are shot out now. My hands are shot out. The opportunities for my hands are very slim they were shot out. My hands were unavailable to get poked for a vein. My arms were nearly out of the question. and every opportunity, was nearly out of the question. And so, and I needed an IV. My IV went bad. I still had antibiotics that I needed to go through my IV, and I needed an IV. And my IV had went bad. So my nurse ends up coming in, and so this experience happened because my nurse comes in and she's like, your hand looks swollen. And because of my past experiences, I can tell when an IV is going bad, and because I've experienced a lot of different experiences with IVs going bad, to say the least. So I look at my hand, and she's like, your hand looks swollen. So I look at my hand because the IV was on this hand, it was on my wrist. So I look at it, and I'm looking at it, and I'm like, it doesn't look too bad. And then oh no, I'm wrong. Excuse me. It was my left hand. I couldn't see it. So she picks up my hand for me, and she shows me, and sure enough, it didn't look good. So she ends up taking. She ends up. I'm so sorry. Forgive me. I'm feeling horrible today. I gotta apologize, but I'm trying to really stick to consistency with my content schedule. And I did commit to you guys saying throughout the good, the bad, and the ugly, I would try to make a video for you guys. So I do apologize. I'm sorry. I'm just really trying to stick to my word, be a man of his word. So my IV went bad on my left hand. She shows me. She ends up, I'm talking about the nurse. She ends up having to take out the IV, taking it out. And it did sting a little bit, but not too bad. So I knew it was getting to that point, but I didn't think it was going to be so soon. I thought I at least had another day. So she ends up pulling it out, she ends up taking the IV out. Then they end up fortunately finding an IV on this hand. That's why this hand came in the picture. Finding an IV in this hand, which was on my wrist. And that one was no bueno. And then the IV in that hand. That one lasted like a day. And that's why this one came in the picture so fast. That one only lasted a day. My nurse walks in the room in the morning, and she tells me, she was like, how does the IV feel when they flush it, and putting medication and stuff in it? I'm like, it feels fine, and it seemed a little bit, but not too bad, And to me, I felt like I at least had maybe 2 more days in it, just from past experiences. And sure enough, after that antibiotic went in, my hand got more swollen. So I'm looking at it, and I'm like, yeah, it's getting more swollen. My hand was getting more puffy, and your hand gets swollen, for those of you that don't know. When your IV gets bad, and your IV starts to swell like a balloon, 9 out of 10 times, quick disclaimer, this is not medical advice. This is just me talking about personal experiences. 9 out of 10 times when your hand swells, when you have an IV in your hand, is because your IV is not in the vein anymore, and your medication or whatever is going through your IV is going into the tissue, which is why your hand swells. So the IV went bad very quickly. So because my hands and my arms were shot out, because I've been poked so many times, literally over a dozen times, from both hospital visits, I was out of options. So my nurse comes in, my doctor comes in, and she tells me that I'm almost done with my antibiotics. I believe I had like 1 more day left with antibiotics. The doctor comes in, and she tells me she heard about my IV, and she's like, well, you have another day of antibiotic stuff. So we talk to cut everything short. She's like, I'm gonna put in an order for a midline. I'm like, okay, like great, And I ask her, I'm like, okay, great, to cut everything short. And to cut everything short, I'm talking about within this video, But with the doctor, I was like, okay, great, thank you. To cut everything short, now I'm thinking, what's a midline? Because I've had Abrovia. I've obviously had numerous, probably hundreds, if not thousands, of IVs within my lifetime. I had a Boviac before when I had back surgery. I had a PICC line several times with my past, right? So then I started to think, what's the midline? And then I'm thinking, I don't know what I was thinking, to be honest. So anyhow, so as it's coming closer to time when the midline's coming, now I'm becoming curious, what's a midline? I'm not looking it up yet, Actually, I didn't look it up before they did it at all, just because I didn't want to psych myself out, And I ended up asking the nurses, nurses and friends that I developed relationships with over the years and within my lifetime. I started asking them, hey, what's a midline? Do you know what a midline is? They started explaining it to me. Anyhow, midline, again, not medical advice. This is just personal opinion from my own personal life experiences. I just wanted to make that quick disclaimer. Don't go in asking for a midline. It's not fun. So anyhow, I started asking questions. They started explaining to me what it is. Essentially, what a midline is. A PICC line goes through your arm, okay, and they feed it all the way up to your arm, over your shoulder, and then it connects to an artery or veins around your heart, okay? It connects to your heart to some extent. A PICC line does, okay? So it's a very long wire that feeds this catheter through, which is, I had horrible experiences with these in the past, and that's how I was put to sleep for surgery. That's a different story. But I have been awake during a PICC line. The last PICC line I had was a very horrible experience. It was not comfortable. And so they feed a wire, literally a wire, and it connects to a catheter, feeds in your arm, goes up to your shoulder. So it's very long, and it connects to your arm. And they did mine on my right side because it was just a better option for them. So a midline is similar to a PICC line, just shorter. So, or deeper. Shorter and deeper. Let me explain what I mean there. So a midline, they went to my arm, and I'll upload a short picture / video of the midline that I had, so you can see exactly how long it is. And it connects to your upper. It connects to your upper shoulder, so like halfway. Very long. So the nurse comes in, amazing guy. Shout out. Excuse me. Oh my gosh. I'm sorry. I am so sorry. Again, today I'm not feeling 100%. There's been experiencing a bit of a relapse these past few days. So I'm still having cough and congestion. By the way, for clarification, when I pause the video, I'm coughing it up the phlegm and then I'm spitting it out. That's why I'm pausing the video. Back to what I was saying. Shout out to my nurse who performed the midline. Shout out to you, brother. You were absolutely amazing. A great conversationalist, and I had a really great conversation and a great time that we had being together during this procedure. I appreciate you, brother. And anyhow, so my nurse comes in and comes in with the ultrasound and he's doing that, and so he's setting up his stuff, and I didn't know when I say a procedure, it's a procedure. It's not a surgery. I wouldn't call it a surgery, but it's a procedure. I mean, by procedure, I'm talking about it's sterile. You have to be in a sterile environment. It's a sterile procedure that has to get done. Very interesting experience. I thought was pretty cool. And anyhow, so I'm talking to the nurse who's going to perform the procedure to administer the midline, asking him what it is. I didn't want to see what it looked like before then because I didn't want to suck myself out. Ask him what it is, and I'm like, does it hurt? And he's telling me about it. He's like, it shouldn't. He was like, I'm gonna give you numbing medications to numb your arm. And in my mind, I'm like, I heard that before and had horrible experiences with things like that before. And sure enough, when he said he was gonna numb it, he he numbed it and I didn't feel anything. I felt like little tugs here and there, but nothing like extreme, like where I wanted to scream. I didn't have that experience, and it's very, very, very fortunate for that. God definitely answered my prayer during this one. And then he also, he does his thing. It's about a 45-minute process, but the main process that takes up the majority of the time is getting prepped for it. The actual procedure itself is like 10 to 15 minutes. So he does his thing, and we're talking throughout the entire process. A great guy, great guy. Excuse me. And so he's doing his thing, and I can feel the wire being pulled out of the arm. Again, my arm is numb, but I can still feel, if that makes sense. So he pulls the wire out. He's doing his thing, and I'm like, "Is the worst done?" He's like, "Yeah." When he said that, I was like, "Okay, I'm good now." Like whatever you have to do, like I'm fine with. So he does his thing. He sets it all up. I didn't feel a thing, which again was a very big blessing. And because again, this was just quite the experience. I was going through enough as it is. I didn't want to add more to the plate. You know what I mean? And I didn't want to add more to the plate. Yeah, so get my first midline in, and got my first midline in, which was quite the experience. The reason why I got the midline in, where I try to really, really find another IV, was because up to my knowledge, I was supposed to be in the hospital for a few more days. Then, fortunately, it was a blessing in disguise, really, where the nurse comes in the next day, which was December 6th, and she's like, "How are you feeling today?" I'm like, "I'm feeling great, feeling better." And I really was feeling great, really was feeling better, and I really did feel well enough where I think I could go home. My mom agreed with me. She's seen the progress, she's seen how my health is doing, and before I really make the final decision to come home, because I'm 21, I have that say so, right? Because I'm over 21, I have that say so. I like to get her input as well, and she's like, if you say you're doing good, if you say you're well enough, she was like, I believe you. So we were on the same page, which I am fortunate for. And my doctor comes in, she's like, "How are you feeling?" I'm like, "I'm feeling great." She was like, "Well, I was thinking about you getting discharged today." And I'm like, "Great, yeah, like I'm up for it, Cut everything short. She gets the discharge process going, and to cut everything really short, now I'm thinking to myself, well, why did I have to get this midline in? I'm thinking this to myself, and then but I guess it worked out. But anyhow, getting the midline out was no bueno, because you're not numb, and there's like a clamp. I don't want to scare you guys off, so I won't get too much in detail, because if you need it, get it, I don't want to scare you guys off, so I won't say too much here, but there's a clamp that gets put in that holds the midline in, and getting that clamp out, for me, got stuck a little bit, so it was quite the experience, but again, I don't want to scare you guys off, because it long term speaking, using a midline you can have for a month up to my knowledge, I believe you can have it in for a little bit longer, as long as you like keep it clean and you clean it, flush it, do that whole 9 yards. I won't get into the specifics, but if you take good care of it, you can have it in for a while. Again, to my knowledge, not medical advice. And this is just all my opinion off of my own personal experiences. And so I get this midline in, they take it out. That was quite the experience within itself. And then I get discharged. I get sent on my way. Send a social media update talking about, I'm discharged, I'm doing well, and I do all that. Now, during this entire process, I wasn't active too much with social media, with my messages, or anything. The reason being is because I have been on and off with my SMA for quite a while, and I'll talk about this probably in a future video, in another video, because this video is fairly long as it is, and I'm not feeling 100% as well, and I don't want to take up more of your time. Anyhow, back to what I was saying is because I was on and off with my respiratory for quite some time. I'm feeling under the weather. I was feeling fatigue a lot more than usual, so my phone was feeling a lot more heavier than usual. To give an example, by me being in the hospital, I couldn't feed myself. I needed assistance to be fed. I'm not used to this. And mentally, it's hard to get through certain battles, especially more so. I cannot speak for everybody with SMA. I cannot speak for everybody who has SMA. But when you have SMA and it's progressive, and certain possibilities and certain outcomes is likely to happen, by losing your physical strength because your muscles slowly start to atrophy, which is what SMA is quickly is. It's a progressive medical condition that slowly takes away the ability to walk and breathe. Over time, your muscles start to atrophy, and atrophy means to waste, means to take away from you. So by me having SMA and feeling under the weather, I'm naturally, by default, slowly losing the mobility that I have. So picking up my phone became very heavy. Feeding myself, that was a very big challenge. I needed assistance, and mentally, although I don't show it, but mentally, or I don't even talk about it much. I talked about it on the YouTube channel. I'm pretty comfortable sharing it with you guys. But mentally, trying to get through, being able to do one thing to the next, not being able to do it, or slowly seeing certain things being taken from you, such as your mobility to do certain things, your independence to do certain things, really can affect you mentally. And lately, it's just been a battle, a mental and spiritual, emotional battle. With a decline with my strength. Now, it hasn't been the easiest to go through, and I'm gonna cut it short because I'm getting too emotional here. And it hasn't been the easiest to go through. So picking up my phone has been a challenge. Being on a computer has been a really big challenge. That alone is a big obstacle as it is. Being on the computer, for the mere fact is there's a lot of tasks that I need to do with where I'm going and for certain things I'm trying to accomplish, while I still have the availability and opportunity to do so. And since I've been home, I haven't been able to do those things. So it's been a journey. It hasn't been easy. So what I want to say, the reason why I'm bringing all that up is because I want to talk about the mental and spiritual side of it. I'm gonna cut it short very soon here. Is the mental aspect of it is you're going to go through storms. You're going to go through health diagnosis. You're going to go through certain things in life you'd rather not want to go through, and unfortunately, life is just going to have you go through them, and it's up to you whether or not you are going to choose to go through it, and what I mean by that, by going through it, is letting certain things go. Meaning, for me, if I can't do certain things, I gotta let it go. It's out of my control. Meaning, taking care of certain things on my phone. If I can't do it, let it go. Taking care of certain things on the computer, professionally. If I can't do it, let it go. Certain, let's go bigger here. Certain relationships going on, If there's certain things that are within my control, great. If there's certain things out of my control, find a way to let it go. And I think the only way to truly let it go, because I've been asking myself this big question, how do you really let go? And I was seeing a video of a girl named Amara, and she enlightened me, because I've been asking myself this question for 5 years. How do you let go? And she said, it was just such a coincidence. She said, I believe in order to truly let go, you have to go through it. And when she said that, it was just like, it just felt meant for me. And so in order to, when certain things are within your control, great. Do the best you can, put in the best effort that you can, and do everything possible within your power. That's good, right? And have good intentions, and be very mindful with your actions. And let go of the things that are beyond your control. Again, how do you let go of those things? You go through it. You go through those storms of life. You go through those adversities. You go through that wind that is just seems to push you back. Tries to the winds that are going so much against you, where it feels like you can't breathe. You gotta find a way to go through it. Is it easy? Hell no. It's not. This is the very first time I ever said that word here on my channel. It is not easy. It's not supposed to. And the thing I learned is that the harder life goes against you, you have to ask yourself this one question. I was reviewing my own philosophy recently. And And to get through the storms of life, one, it's what my brand represents. Grow through what you go through. And two, you have to find a way to understand why these things are happening. What can you benefit from these things that are happening to you? Meaning, how can you improve who you are? How can you better develop your character? Maybe you need more patience. I definitely needed more patience during this process. I still need a lot more patience with this process because of my strength. How can you become better when these trials, these tribulations are happening within your life? Now, back to what I said earlier, is I was going to walk you through the mental and spiritual mindset. Spiritually, while you're going through these adversities and you're going through these hard times, you're depending where you stand with God, right? You're going to question God. You're going to question your higher power. Why are you doing this to me? I've been there, especially 5 years ago. I was at the very lowest point of my life. Very, very lowest point of my life. Why are you doing this to me? Why is this happening to me? I would ask those questions. And within this experience, I kept asking, what are you trying to teach me? Now that's huge. To go from 5 years ago, why are you doing this to me? To 5 years later, knowing what I know, developing the mindset that I have, growing through everything I have just within that process. Both things that I have shared and both things that I have not. It's a mindset shift. I switched from why is this happening to me to 5 years later, to 5 years ago asking why is this happening to me, to 5 years later asking what are you trying to show me? because there is something within this experience, within this life experience that you are going through that only you can discover. What that is, I don't know. I don't know, again, why you go through the certain things you go through. But I do know is that everything holds meaning for you. Whether that's you meeting someone because you're going through this adversity. Whether that's, who knows, maybe this adversity is protecting you from you going through something you wish you hadn't. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, you guys. But back to what I was saying, is whenever you're going through life, you need a mindset shift. When you're going through this spiritual battle, when you're going through this thing with God, it's not easy building a relationship with God, especially when you're really, really going through some trials and tribulations, and it's been going on for a very long time. What I have been going through, especially recently, has been going on for a very long while. This year has not been the easiest. These past 5 years have not been the easiest. But I will say, if you can build a relationship with God, you keep your mind sharp by giving yourself the right information. You give yourself a fighting chance. If you want to better your mindset, if you want to know what I know, you want to see what I learned, go to my website, becomethevictor.com, and check out Victor's Alchemist Wisdom. And these are quotes and life lessons that I have learned to help you through everything you too are going through. I love you. I appreciate you. And remember, grow through what you go through. And again, I apologize for a lot of the pauses within the video. Again, I'm not feeling 100%, but I am getting better. Much love.